Yo people, welcome back to another review, this time Tales of the Empire, and I was going to do this as a two-part review like I did last year because Tales of the Jedi was so good that it needed to be split. That show was my favourite for the whole of 2023 that Star Wars produced. This year, however, it's unfortunate because Tales of the Empire has fumbled it big time. I had some red flags from the second they chose Morgan Elsbeth as one of the main characters, but I thought the storytelling would help it because of how good it was in Tales of the Jedi. But I don't know, Morgan's episodes in particular were really missing that star power of a solid main character. So for me, this risk didn't pay off with Morgan. Now, be honest with yourselves and let me know down in the comments. If you were told that you were in charge of a show called Tales of the Empire and you could pick any two characters that you wanted, would you have picked Morgan Elsbeth? Let me know where she would rank for you because for me, not even top 15, not top 20. There's way more characters that should have got this role instead of her. Now, let's get into Morgan's story. Now, episode 1 basically served as a backstory to understand her rage, understand why she's evil, why she hates the world. Her sisters get extinct, she watches her mum die in front of her, and then when she's given a second opportunity in a new clan, she gets them killed. So essentially, she's a screw up. Overall, good first episode, the intentions were there, everything was fine, no problems at all. Then we get episode 2, which is basically her forming the first connections with Thrawn, which was pretty cool, in contact with the Empire. We also see characters like Rook from Rebels, we see Captain Pelion from Mandalorian Season 3. I think all of this could have been done in a shorter way in the Ahsoka show. It would have fleshed out Morgan in the present and made her more relevant to the story overall. Even elements of episode 1 could have been merged into the Ahsoka show because Morgan was doing all these things in Ahsoka, but we don't know why. Why did she have an allegiance to Thrawn? Why is she putting her life out on the line like this? How does she know of all of these things? Even the reason as to why she had loyalties to Thrawn wasn't really explained. It doesn't make a lot of sense. What, because he believed in you one time, now you owe him your life? Seems a bit glazy, but anyways, I think that the Ahsoka show suffered because of the lack of depth from the villains, and this would have actually solved some of those issues personally. Episode 3 was basically the New Republic trying to arrest Morgan, and she disposed of all those New Republic members quickly. And again, super disappointing not to see Shin or Baylan or anyone else that could have connected to the Ahsoka show. Now, Barriss' story. Episode 1, no complaints again. Both episode 1s were actually done very well in my opinion. They set a solid foundation, and in this case you see the early beginning of the Inquisitors. We see the trials, we get a sense of timeline in the grand scheme of things. We see the Grand Inquisitor, we see Vader, we see the whole setup basically. Episode 2 was an absolute waste. You can't turn a character and try to redeem them in what for us would have been about 5 minutes after seeing her fully join the Inquisitors at the back end of episode 1. Long live the Empire, that's what she said at the very end. And then 5 minutes later, she's fighting the Inquisitor. I think it was a very, very poor decision and one that just would never work regardless of which character you're dealing with because of the amount of time that you have. So they really set Barriss up for failure essentially. They even end the episode with the Jedi who got stabbed having a possibility of surviving. Again, they're forcing this agenda of being stabbed by a lightsaber doesn't mean that you're dead. I defended the Sabine one, but this one's ridiculous, along with the Reva one and all the other ones that they've done before. The last episode, episode 3, that was just horrible. Again, we get hints of Ahsoka. They're talking about old friends and that. Yeah, if you go to these coordinates, blah, blah, blah. But we don't see her, just like in the Morgan one. We get the little distress signal that hints at Ahsoka coming, which is what we see in Mandalorian Season 2, but we don't actually get to see her. So both of these episode 3s have Ahsoka hints, but we don't see anything. Also, another female character with short hair. We see you, Kathleen. It's getting very on the nose now. As for Dave Filoni, he now has this habit of skipping over the actual first encounters, first meetings, first reunions between characters, and it's kind of annoying because a lot of people actually want to see that because it allows to get first impressions, first reactions, what questions, how do they interact, and this is the case with Luke and Ahsoka. Super important, completely skipped it. Sabine and Ezra, in the Ahsoka show we see it, completely skip all the key parts. Now Barriss and Ahsoka, another one that gets skipped where that would have had a lot of tension and a lot of things going into it. And after she said old friend and kind of confirmed Ahsoka wouldn't be in this episode, I signed out, to be honest. My mind signed out, didn't really care. The rest of the story was meant to be a whole double meaning, double story, symbolic thing about if you find yourself, aka return to the light, then you'll be able to find your way out of this cave, which I think was Ilum. I don't want to assume that any snowy mountain thing is Ilum, but I think it was. Anyways, Barriss gets stabbed in a stupid way, and again, They leave it open-ended because lightsaber stabs have no meaning anymore. She should be dead, but if this show gets a good reception, they'll be ready to pounce with her return. The fact that we didn't even get to see Darth Vader versus Barriss or Ahsoka versus Barriss, two fights that would have had so much tension, it kind of is a concern in terms of where the future of Star Wars is going. They're avoiding all these key things, they're focusing on other things that aren't relevant. So yeah, overall, I think Disney are just using Dave Filoni's name to produce garbage, and if this is really Dave's work, then it's an all-time low for him. I've said for months, I think Disney gave him that promotion so they can hide themselves behind his name, his rep. They just blame Dave if anything goes wrong. This show, I mean, it suffered from the star power and the relevance with both characters, especially Morgan's story. Having said that, I think her story was the better one, which is funny because heading into this show, I would have said that Barriss would have been the most interesting, but actually for me it was Morgan. Not that her thing was great, but it was better than Barriss's one, that's for sure. I think Thrawn and the Grand Inquisitor, they stole the show in their respective stories, and they were better off making stories about those two characters because they are key to the Empire, and it would have been good to flesh them out, but I guess not. It doesn't fit with the inclusion and everything, so yeah, they won't do that. I think the time jumping aspect that made season 1 really good and that boosted Morgan's story really let down Barriss' story, especially for episodes 2 and 3. One thing I'm getting tired of, and this is the Kathleen formula, I know it's her ideas, is turning the females good. They're villains, but they have to always be redeemed. Females can never be true villains, they just can't, it's impossible. And it's getting pretty predictable now. Iden Versio, Reva, Barriss, that other Inquisitor. I know I'm missing other characters out as well, but come on, stop making it predictable. It's obvious now what your agendas are. I think this whole redemption thing, it really ruined Barriss. Years of speculation, people wanted to see Ahsoka versus Barriss, people wanted to know what happened. In the end, it was one of the biggest letdowns and something that probably we're better off not seeing now. I want to unsee what I did and just keep it in my head. What could have been? She should have been a fully committed Inquisitor and we should have seen her get wiped out by Ahsoka or Darth Vader. Yeah, it's the obvious thing, but it's what people want to see. Disney keep doing this thing where if it's obvious then they won't do it. But in reality, you can still write good stories that are obvious, but if you find ways to keep people guessing and keep raising tension and everything, then there is no problem if it's obvious, as long as you take the audience on a journey. But yeah, as always, let me know your thoughts down below. I hope someone out there enjoyed all of this. I hope someone liked Tales of the Empire. I'm sure there's plenty of people. They definitely cater to a certain amount of people, so I hope those people enjoyed it. I personally didn't, and I'm never going to hide my real opinions. Also, I will be doing a live stream tomorrow, 10:30 PM UK time. So yeah, as always, drop a like on the video, sub to the channel if you haven't already, and if you're new around here, thank you for your time. Have a great rest of your day.